Welcome back. We're going to go ahead and pick up where we last left off with Martesse. This is part 2 of From Chaos to Serenity. And as I was editing this second part of the audio, I thought, okay, where am I going to end this? Because we went on for a while. I did cut off quite a bit, but I wanted to leave the last bit for you because we were just having a casual conversation. It was no longer about the questions and answers. It was just a conversation between two people who really are truly passionate about what they do and the dynamic between us. And I just want you to hear. So enjoy the second part of From Chaos to Serenity with my special guest, Martesse Gilliam. Welcome to Get Intentional with Mary. This podcast is for the busy woman who appreciates working hard and also playing hard. This show will focus on lifestyle, entrepreneurship, wellness, amazing interviews, and what every woman needs to live a successful and fulfilled life. Be sure to subscribe, share with friends, and leave a review. Now let's get on with today's topic. There's a question that I want to ask you about discrimination, and what would you say to somebody who is currently experiencing some level of discrimination or prejudice? And what would you say in terms of how they can heal and grow through that?
No one understands that what they're saying, their ignorance, the stuff that they project out is due to their ignorance they're lacking. And it could be from their upbringing. And you got to try your best not to take it personally and see that for what it is, right? That person is something within them that they're dealing with that they may not feel like enough, or just completely blind ignorance, things that they were taught. There's so many things when it comes to discrimination, especially given our history as human beings, and if you live in America, it's embedded in the DNA of our culture, our society, and it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. I've gone through discrimination. I've gone through it all throughout my life. Being a kid, being talked to a certain type of way from white police officers, growing up in places that I grew up in. I was a police officer when I got arrested. It was 8 to 9 white officers that beat me up and the things that they would say. But I got to a point. How did I get over it? How did I deal with it? Forgiveness. It makes some people like, man, hell no, I can't do that. I can't forgive. There's a lot of people. It's really hard. But given my faith, and also knowing, if you want to not take it to faith, back to what my mom said, right? Like, do you want to keep drinking the poison, or like something when you're discriminated against, you can feel that something was taken away from you. You can feel less than in those moments. A person can make you feel less of a human. I knew I felt that, and I didn't want to give my power to anybody else. That wasn't a good feeling, to feel powerless, because I felt that it was easy for me, and I was already going down the spiral, but keep going down that downward spiral. And what's there, right? Addictions, trying to deflect and get your mind off of things. You can think of all the worst of things. What happened with me, I was able to make the distinction. I was able to identify that those officers did exactly what we were trained, did exactly what has been happening in policing for years. They did things that I'd probably done and I've been trained to do. It was like a movie, because as it was happening to me, I was like, I'm literally being treated the way that we were trained, that I seen other officers act on, and I didn't step in. So I got that, and I forgave them, because I was like, in their minds, you can't tell them that they were wrong. I don't know. But some people are completely evil. I'm going to say that out of those 9 officers, not all of them thought that they were acting in an evil manner. People have looked at me like I wasn't human. People have talked to me like I wasn't human. When they told me that I was getting arrested and I was going to jail that day, that person was talking to, and I was a police officer, and now it went in one ear and out the other. It didn't come to mind until they got to the police department and they seen my badge. And then I was saying it the whole time that they didn't hear any of that stuff, because they seen a criminal. They seen the person as stereotyped as like this dangerous man, dangerous being, not even a human, probably, whatever. This, they're not saying it, but that's just what the programming is. And I seen that, and I knew that I was like, this person is talking at me, not the actual person, the being behind the suit that I'm wearing.
Mm.
Like,
Mhm.
not talking to me. And, I freed myself up through any feelings of brokenness, shame, any of those lower emotions through forgiveness, through forgiving them for what they may or may not know, and just moving forward. And the more and more I forgave them, the more and more I sent positive energy to them. I'm like, they're probably fathers, they're probably brothers, they're probably, something doing something positive in the community. I don't know. Like, how are they with their kids? How are they with their wife, with their family or wife? Probably great human beings outside of that. Things that I try to put myself in their shoes best I can. And then it's like it was just an acceptance. It was just an acceptance and a forgiveness, and I just let it be. Now I knew
Mm.
that what they did was hurtful and shouldn't be done to people.
Mhm.
And people shouldn't have to just take evil acts and experiences and just have to forgive and just whatever. I don't know what happened to those officers. Hear what happened to those officers afterwards. I'm grateful that I'm alive and that I
Yeah.
was able to get past it, and then I'm not carrying any weight and I don't feel like they've taken anything from me.
Mhm.
I can move forward. So that's what I would say to that long-winded answer. Somebody discriminates against you because there's you'll drive yourself crazy trying to convince them and persuade them to your perspective.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have said the craziness that they said or did what they did if they had the awareness or the willingness to get to that point. Now, do some people change? Yeah, I think if some enough people take a stand, you know, um,
Mhm.
and call them out on their shit, you
Yeah,
know, and and,
exactly.
and somebody that they trust, somebody
Mhm.
that they respect, says something to them and stand on it. But I don't, until people start to take those huge stands and calling people out on their shit, we're going to keep having that
Yeah.
happen. Things like this are going to continue to happen.
Mhm. I think it's that lack of appreciation for life, pure life as it is, regardless of what anyone looks like or what their economic status is, because it's happening all over the world and it always has. And it's really sad to see that there's no real respect for humanity. If you agree with somebody, they love you, they respect you, but the second that you don't, all of a sudden you're not worthy of their love and respect anymore. So for us as individuals, I believe it's super important to just listen to the stories, to learn from those experiences, and to hear what you're saying because you are sharing your story from a place of peace and forgiveness, not from a victim mentality, not from a space where you're still like carrying so much hurt.
Because where does being a victim get you? Because it's more of the story, And I'm like playing the violin right now.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
like you want somebody to feel bad for you, even if they all said I'm sorry and forgave you, and you got everybody in the world to be on your side in the
Mhm.
story. Is that really going to be the thing that is empowers you or whatever? It makes you feel powerful. For me, and maybe for a lot of other people, that's not what I needed.
Right.
I needed to just feel whole within myself.
Mhm.
I needed to feel that they didn't take a piece of me, and I wanted to get that invisible piece of me back by
Mhm.
doing the work on the invisible part of myself. And that's what worked for me. That's what I believe in, and that's what I would push towards anyone else, because privilege, entitlement, all this stuff is going to constantly is going to continue to be taught within families and other things, and you can't win.
Mhm.
You can't win against privilege and entitlement and people that think in that manner, or just that discriminate. They don't care to make sense. They just want to argue what they feel,
Yeah.
and they just want to win for the
Right.
most part. And just that alone will drive you crazy. If I can drive you nuts by just saying whatever it is that I want to say, I know it's gonna piss you off, then I won.
Yeah.
So I knew when I went into, for instance, when I went to go face those officers again, and then I did. I had to go on the trial. I was in a place where I had had been a couple years before trial had came around, and I had been living a different life and doing the work on myself. And I knew who I was, and I knew that I had went through the identity crisis of who am I. I was this police
Mhm.
officer, and like I had to recreate myself. But then when I started teaching martial arts and opened my own martial arts school and doing positive things in the community and doing the work on myself. I went in with a different level, a leveled head, and I had a
Mm.
ease and peace around.
Mhm.
It was just like, because I knew with all integrity in my heart that what I did wasn't wrong, and I did the work, and I was in acceptance. I was like, it is what it is, and I gave it all to God, and it did my forgiveness. There was nothing else. I felt like I did it all. I was like,
Yeah.
I gave all that I could. It's not in my hands anymore, and it all worked out in my favor.
Mhm. Mm.
And everything that they said, the stories that you tried to stand on, didn't make any sense, and it got exposed to the jury and anybody else that was there. That was just like, there's no sense in any of this. But they tried it. They did from the attorneys and everything. They tried to stand on the craziest things, but it didn't work at that time. And I'm grateful.
Mhm. God had a bigger plan for you.
I guess so.
Yes, right? I mean, it all served a purpose. You weren't meant to be a police officer. You were meant to be there for as long as you were, and then you were meant to go through this experience in order to inspire other people, to teach what true forgiveness is, and to teach what it means to make a real choice in your life, to either move forward or keep looking to the past. And like they say, this is why the windshield is a lot bigger than the rear view window, because the past is gone and you have to keep your eyes forward. And with that being said, let's talk about the future. What is coming up for you? What would current Martise here, as we're recording this in February of 2023, what do you see from Martise in maybe, I don't know, let's say about 5 years or so? What's going on in your life?
5 years. So 5 years. My oldest daughter, man, I don't even like say this, but she'll be 21.
Woo!
She'll be 21 or older than that. She's turning 17 in May.
Mhm.
And all my kids will be older, man. I have another, my middle daughter will be 14, 15.
Wow. Mhm.
I'll just be older. In 5 years, you know, probably speaking, doing some talks. It's something that I've always kind of felt called to do, dealt with trusting in myself, confidence with doing it. Am I ready? Am I enough? Do I really have something to say? And I just allow opportunities to come to me. It comes to that because I feel that those are the people that I'm called to speak
Mhm.
in those spaces.
So who are you speaking to when you see this in your mind? Like, who is it that you're talking to?
Anyone. It can be corporate companies. It can be sports teams. It can be children. I spoke.
Mhm.
I did school talks. The children are the future, and I feel that they don't have as many programs. I
Right.
think that's happening faster, given their exposure to technology. They have way more information. I talk to my kids a lot
Mhm.
about things, and it's really from like personal. It's like before I owned a martial arts school. Yeah, I was a dad. My daughter was young at the time, but now that I have multiple kids, I really think that I would love to make an impact there
Mhm.
in the youth and community, especially communities that I've lived in.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I've been thinking about getting back into the martial arts. Well, I'm still there. My family owns martial arts schools, but like owning my own martial arts school and doing things in the community from that,
Mhm.
utilizing that platform,
Yeah.
because I'm also a huge believer in, like, as you teach any type of combat defense, martial art, I say that it's better to know it and not need it than need it and not know it. And it's no confidence like self defense confidence. And when you realize that, you realize how to defend yourself and you walk around with that certain level of confidence, you actually aren't. And you know that you're violent and you don't have to be,
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
that you have a certain level of calm
Mhm.
about you. And I would like other people to experience that.
That quiet confidence.
Yeah.
That you know your value, you know your worth, you know where you stand, and you don't have to prove anything to anyone.
I forget the saying about some, like a gardener that is like martial artist, he a killer, but he's a gardener. But if something
Mhm.
was to happen, he's he's able to take care of himself and his family.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it does, you have a certain level of calm and peace when you have
Mhm.
that type of confidence. I don't know how to explain it, but it just is what it is.
Do you have a favorite martial arts character from a movie?
Martial arts, I mean, I love Bruce Lee. I think
Mhm.
everybody loves Bruce Lee. Just the gems that he would drop in movies or talks, huge inspiration, I think, to everybody in the martial arts industry. I liked other guys like Jet Li and people, any type of martial arts film. But I'm trying to think of favorites. It's a lot of movies growing up, man. Even like the Blade movies with Wesley Snipes and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like, you know,
There's
and,
a
and
new one coming out, you know that, right?
yeah, yes, and like, but to see even like people of color in those roles, I could take it back to Bruce Leroy, the
Yeah,
Last Dragon,
yeah.
the Last Dragon, where it's like Bruce Lee, but there's a black guy that's playing a character just like Bruce Lee. It's a classic. It's a comedy. It's funny, but it's really good and
Mhm.
inspiring. Um, Jackie Chan. I like 'em. I like them all.
I love that. I grew up watching a lot of martial arts also, and when I was a kid, my dad enrolled us in karate, just to keep our minds off of the grief and all of that we were going through. So it helped me tremendously, and it's just a whole different way of thinking, and I feel that having that combination of the martial arts mindset, the discipline that comes with it, the mindfulness that comes with practicing yoga, the faith, the self-awareness, and being able to develop that peace within yourself, it's a beautiful way to live, and it's a beautiful way to radiate that light to other people, and that's what you have. That's why people gravitate toward you. It's not necessarily about the actual physical experience of the class, but it's what people can get out of just being in your presence, and, like, I remember having the conversation with you about what does your name mean, right? And and you said, "Oh, it means God's gift." And I'm like, "Heck yes." So when you mentioned earlier about having that belief in yourself and that confidence in your message and the way that you want to be able to reach all of these amazing goals in the future, to speak, to be a much bigger influence, you already have it. It's all there. It's all there. And it's just a matter of that understanding and accepting all of the gifts, because for whatever reason, God said, "Zap, that's the one right there." That's the one. So let's put him through a few trials and tribulations and see how he comes through. And let's see what his attitude is, right? Because when we're tested, man, it's for a higher purpose.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that. I'm still trying to figure out constantly that purpose. I think that my purpose has been the same throughout the different lives that were lived. Before becoming a police officer, then becoming a police officer. Like my purpose, filling the capacity of patrol officer and being of service in the community. There was things that I wanted inner peace for everybody that was there. I wanted to help and be of service. Then that went to martial arts, school owner, taught the same thing. Never thought I would be in yoga. Yoga enhanced it and helped me look at things from a different perspective and have a different level of awareness. Then teaching yoga, then getting into adult fitness that I never thought that I would get into. And so, but I'm realizing no matter where I go and what capacity I may be doing life or where I'm at, the purpose is still kind of the same.
Mhm.
And I want to continue to do that. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds and see what capacity I'll be trying to make a difference. We'll see how these next 5 years go. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm always just like, it's always some uncertainty, man. I don't know what's going on, but I just go with the flow at times.
Yep.
And it
Mhm.
seems that for me, it's all a part of my faith. It's a saying I always say, like things always work out
Mhm. Yep.
no matter what. And I think that's a lot of that got me through all the things. Something that my mom gave, and I think it's very important that like we plant certain seeds like this in our kids because it sticks. It stuck for me, and I just remember her. I don't know when I just know I was really young, and she was like, "Just know like know like believe it, like believe in
Mhm.
yourself, know like and that's one thing that like I cherish. And it was like
Mhm.
you know, know like and like say things like it'll always work out for me. So
Yeah.
like no matter, and I believe that, and that's been my life. No matter
Mhm.
what, I've gone through, no matter how many times I had to pick myself up, no matter how many
Mhm.
times I feel like I hit rock bottom, because that's been my process, taking the stairs and you know making certain decisions, and looking back like, oh man, all right, that didn't work. Let me let me
Yeah.
try it again. But
Mhm.
it'll always work out for me.
Mhm.
Always learn something and take something from it and keep moving forward.
Yeah, and that's the difference right there. That's it. That's what separates the winners from those who don't have that winning spirit. And one thing that you said earlier is that when you hit rock bottom, you were on your back and the only way to look was up.
Hmm.
And it's just I love that analogy because really, you have to understand that you got to get up and you got to keep moving. And some people, yeah, okay, they have a life where they took the elevator. And for some of us, we have to go step by step.
Hmm.
Not even a nice staircase. You gotta like freaking ladder where you're grabbing and pulling yourself up on a rusty ladder.
Yeah,
But we make it through. We make
yeah,
it through. And it's during those hardships that we really find out what we're made of. And our stories are the type of stories that do impact, that do change lives. And people need that. We need that more than ever to be able to share that message of hope and resilience and purpose.
yeah,
And that's how we change the world, even if it's just one person at a time.
yeah. I think everybody can resonate with that too. Whether you took the stairs or the elevator, there's
Mhm.
some we all hit rock bottom, to however we interpret it, rock bottom being, and that can be emotionally, whatever, and whatever, any aspect of your life.
Mhm.
And sometimes it takes that. Sometimes that's the process for people to make the shift. It's unfortunate at times, because some people's rock bottom is death,
Yeah.
but some people, sometimes we need to get to that point in order to be aware of, like, okay, I gotta make a U-turn, I gotta get off this path, and
Mhm.
then I need to do the things that I knew was really resonating with my soul now, and let this go.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's not
Yeah,
serving.
like, being guided by that, by your intuition, your soul is like, God speaking to you, and how we say that prayer is us talking to God and asking for things and giving gratitude and all of that, but meditation is listening, sitting quietly, and sometimes when we sit quietly, we may not necessarily like what we hear because we're confronted with our stuff.
Hmm.
And, but a lot of beauty and a lot of good also comes from that. And there's something that I actually heard last night. I was at an entrepreneurial panel, and I was one of the ladies who was sharing talked about how she had her awakening. She experienced an awakening the last couple of years. And she said that the way that happened is that her heart was broken and she fell into that void. And when she landed deep within herself. And when she was there in that place, she looked around and she saw all of these jewels and all of this amazing stuff that was already inside of her. So she got back to herself. And what I thought is, okay, this is a beautiful analogy, but at the same time, it almost made me a little sad because sometimes we do have to go through something really bad in order to find ourselves, to dig deep. But what if we can learn? Wouldn't it be great? History wouldn't be what it was, and we wouldn't be where we are in the world today if we actually learned from all of that. What is it going to take to finally say, here's something that I can learn from?
That would be great. I mean, I think we have so many different examples. There's people out there, and I think on your path, God will put signs, individuals, things that are there to stop you.
Mm,
I don't. Sometimes you may not be in a place where you can hear what he's saying. You're not ready to hear what's being said, and when you're in that place of not being able to confront yourself,
mm,
then that's when a lot of stuff happens, and you probably go rock bottom. And from my experience, and I think that's when you got to find safe ways to be able to confront yourself. Meditation is one for me. Like you
yeah.
were saying before, not a lot of people can sit with themselves and their thoughts, and the
Mhm,
only way really is through, but finding ways that are safe, where you can just be and observe. That's what I love
yeah.
about meditation, is that you can sit and just observe the thoughts coming in. And if you make that distinction between true self, the observing, witnessing self,
Mhm,
the self that was programmed by the parents, the people, the world, the status quo, when you can make that distinction and you can be in that freedom, it feels great to be in that space. It's a poem that I've read, and I just read it, and I wish I knew it by heart because I try to memorize a lot of different things
Yeah.
that hit me in my heart. But there's a poem by Khalil, is it Gibran, the poet who wrote a book. He's from back in I think the 1800s.
Wow.
But it's a quote. A letter, and I'll find it on freedom. And it's
Hmm.
beautiful, and it's like 2 or 3 pages. It's real short. The book, I'll bring the book. It's called The Prophet. The book is called
Mm.
When There's a Letter on Freedom. And I feel like if everybody just got this, if every his way of
Yeah.
thinking was amazing, and if you can just get that part that you're always free for the most,
Hmm.
and that there's a part of you that's free of all of these thoughts and this and the third, you can be able to let things go a little faster
Mm.
and be able to make better decisions, you know. But
Yeah.
we just tend to not to.
So we've been talking for a while, and I could talk for another 2 hours with you, easy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But I want to ask you this last question because I'm
I'm
all
gonna jump in and
about.
ask you some questions too, but go ahead.
Oh, so I like to talk about positive self-talk, right? We talk about positive self-talk and negative self-talk, but I like to reframe it into having a positive self-conversation. And when it comes to that, like the things that we allow into our mind, like we have to respond to. So what has been your process of self-conversation? Like what are some of the things that you might say to yourself, and do you have the habit of answering back to yourself?
Some of the things that I say to myself, and do I have to have it answering back to myself? I have experienced the conversation of questions coming up, answers coming in my voice,
Mhm.
feeling like it was from a different source,
Yeah.
because it just had a different vibration, energy connected to it. So I knew that I needed to listen to that. I
Yeah.
just felt like internally that it was like that's God speaking
Mhm,
through me.
mhm,
And then I've had times where, I'm not hearing his voice as clearly, but I'm trying to answer the questions that I'm having for myself. But the more I meditate on the question that question may be,
mhm,
it'll start to present itself. I see that those like answers will start to present itself, or people will start to come into my life that'll give little gems or answers that
mhm,
present things throughout my day. And I just look to witness. I look throughout my day to witness those times. And I
mhm.
get a lot when when I'm going to go teach classes and stuff. There, people don't understand that like they may become. People tell me all the time, like, I had to come into your class because I just needed to hear this and hear that.
Mhm.
Like, you have no idea how much I'm learning from you guys as you
Yeah.
come in. Like things that you say afterwards, or the questions that you may ask,
Mhm,
or they don't know that I'm like that's I'm listening and learning. If I'm confused around something, all is working out for you. All is whole and complete. You
mhm,
may not have all the answers right now, but for all the things that you don't know how to work through and work out, give them to God, give them to the universe, give them to whatever source that you believe in to work out the details for you. Path will be illuminated if you just have some faith and have some trust and keep moving
mhm,
forward. That's how I deal with my confusion and uncertainty.
mhm.
I play with what ifs, or what if this happens? I realize that I have to be in a certain mind space or whatever.
Yeah.
I have to do that. And I'm still working on just making that, like, doing that all the time,
Mhm,
where I'm able to be aware enough to just play with the what ifs, you know, give the challenging questions that I have
mhm,
off to God to work out details for me, so I'm not stressed.
mhm.
Because and I said this in class, when we overthink something, procrastination and stagnation
Yeah.
sets in. And then for me, I don't know about other people, but for me, the negative self talk starts to trump everything else. So I have to start to fill that space with something positive. So whatever that might be, if you got affirmations to say to yourself, say them. Anything that's positive that makes you feel good, that gives you some type of energy shift.
Mhm,
But certain things like it's all working out for me, all is whole and complete. Those work for me a
mhm,
lot. If it's something more specific that I'm trying to work on, I'd like to say that I'm fully capable and I'm able, and I'm figuring it out as I go along. And then there's other things and other affirmations that I'll say in class, letting the divine potential within you emerge. So certain things like that, that if you hear a powerful statement, steal it, take it, and say it to
mhm,
yourself and make it your own until you believe it. Saying it over and over again. My mom used to say this to me: if you don't say it until you believe it, like say, like, because you may not believe it in the beginning,
mhm. Yeah.
phase. And I said this in class, like the preliminary phases of any process, for the most part, they're not pretty. It's a process, and if you believe in the process, you got to believe it. Continue on, say it wholeheartedly, fully. Whatever
Yes.
it is that you're affirming, say it with all your heart, because your heart carries a strong energy. Believe it in your heart. Say it with all of your being, and you'll hopefully experience
Mhm.
something within your body that helps you have a release. And usually, if you're struggling with, I just want to say this really quick, if you're struggling with confronting certain things or whatever, or if you're working out or in meditation or yoga, going back to when you was like, how do I deal with some people that may not be okay with sitting with themselves? And I've heard this before. People have come to me and said, I've felt the trauma that I was carrying leave. I felt a release somewhere in my hips. I felt a release here, and it made me cry. You get to those points and those emotions and those thoughts. Usually, that's an after effect of the release of some type of trauma.
Yeah.
So, like the thought of the discomfort, whatever it is, a traumatic thought, you are safe to observe that because
Mhm.
maybe you were doing something, you were working out and you worked through it and you just kind of hit something that kind of provoked that came up and needed to come up. And just
Yeah.
let it be, so not judging it. I think we judge it. That pulls us away from the direction that we actually need to be
Mhm.
going in. That's going to give us the healing that we need on our hearts. Giving yourself some grace.
Be patient, be gracious with yourself and loving and compassionate, 'cause
Mhm.
we're the worst to ourselves. We can tell other people, we can be kind to other people, make promises, keep promises to them, but when it comes to us, we're like the last person on the list sometimes, and that's why we do what we do, and we put ourselves first in a way that is 100% selfless because we're making an impact. And what you said before about all of these things coming up and all of these emotions, that emotional intelligence is lacking tremendously, and we don't talk about that enough either. That's why we spend so much time with our kids talking to them about their emotions and their feelings, because we carry so much as adults, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, where did this release come from? It took a long time for you to get to that point. So it's good to be able to have that safe space, and you provide that beautiful safe space where we can get aggressive and let it all out and then just come back to ourselves. And that's why I like to call your class Going from Chaos to Serenity, because you're in the middle of it. You're in the middle of a fight. You're physically sweating. You're breathing heavy. You're in a fight. You're in
Yeah,
a fight for your life, a fight for your emotional health, whatever. And then guess what? The fight is over. Now it's time to reconnect.
yeah, and that's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is.
Mhm.
And I'm grateful that people get to experience that on a daily
Yeah.
basis. I'm grateful that I've been able to witness that since 2016. People
Mhm.
show up and pour into themselves.
Yeah.
And also in the dynamic of people that we have coming in, people that don't necessarily consider themselves yogis or have a yogic practice are coming into the class and they're receiving something
Mhm.
at the end. And I think more so now than ever, it's more of a conversation about emotional intelligence, relational intelligence, spiritual intelligence, leadership intelligence, all
Mhm.
these, so being aware about those things will be great because you can give that to your children, like you were saying,
Yes.
and pouring into your kids like that because especially, getting into that spiritual warfare, you can get lost.
Yeah, that's right.
You don't know what to follow. We're
Mhm.
all followers, like, right? Like on
Yeah.
social media, we're all following somebody. You just
We're
got to be,
following.
like you were saying, make sure you're following the right people.
Right.
That takes us a certain level of awareness,
Mhm.
to get to that point because I can go down social media black holes all day long, but I
Mhm.
make sure that it's with the people that are pouring into me
Yeah.
in a positive way. But I was
That's
saying that I'm grateful for you, Mary, because whatever it is that you may see in me or hear from things that I say, I'm grateful that it may give some type of benefit and that it gives some type of benefit to others. And that I'm able to share it because I think I was saying before, I do feel a calling to be in these conversations,
mhm.
but I'm still working up and mustering up the confidence and
Yeah.
courage to put myself out there on my own. And if it was just up to me, it'll take a while. So I'm
Yeah.
grateful that I was able to attract you into my life during
Mm.
this path, this in this journey of life.
Mhm.
and that we're doing things like this together and collaborate. I value it and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. You know, I told you I was going to drag you. This is the year. This is in order for us to get to where we want to be. We have to sweat through it. And when it came to doing these videos and these lives that I always do, I used to sweat profusely, get so nervous, stumble over my words. And now it's become a lot easier because I know that there's a purpose behind it. I do know that it helps a lot of women. So for you, that's where we're going.
I don't know if I'm sweating from being nervous or still sweating from class, but maybe you can block out the sweat marks on
No,
myself.
no, I don't see any sweat. You're good. No, no, you're good. I don't see it. I don't even think there's any sweat left in you. The way you sweat on a daily
Oh my,
basis,
oh my
jeez.
goodness, it's crazy.
One of the best pieces of advice that I ever got when I got to speaking, especially on social media or in stories, is to just pretend that I'm talking to my best friend or pretend that I'm talking to somebody who truly needs my help and just have that one person in mind when I'm sharing my
Yeah.
little tips or, encouragement or motivation.
I mean, after all the years that I've known you and just being at doing the classes that I do, I still get nervous after before every single class,
Mhm, mhm.
every single one.
Yep.
Every class I program, every playlist I put together, every talk that I'm going to do, and I don't really plan like what I'm going to go
Yeah.
out there and say. I mean, there might be something that I heard in a lyric or something that I'm working through within myself that I'll
Mhm.
that I'll share. But I'm nervous, and then when it comes to talking to crowds, I don't like public speaking and or any of that.
Yeah.
I think that I'm able to maybe lock in and talk to one person in the room.
Mhm.
I try to find somebody that's looking at me and not make it so awkward, and I'm looking at them.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do. You
Yeah,
be it until you become it. You know how you say face it
face it till
until
you
you
make it.
make it, or you be it until you become it. That's it. You be that person. You be that Martise from 5 years from now. That's you right now. There's no reason to hold back. Life is short, and I always joke around and say, the day that I'm gone, because I joke around about, the day that I'm gone all the time. Like
Mhm.
I just want to be a fly on the wall. I want to be a fly on the wall that day, man, at my wake.
Yeah,
That's like, just being able to understand that my life did mean something, and that's helped me to kind of face that fear and to put myself out there and not worry about so much about what people think or I like to say it's just stay in your own lane. There are so many people that do what I do. There are so many Zoom instructors, so many life coaches, so many fitness professionals, but nobody has what I have.
mhm,
And I've learned to accept that as opposed to look at it as, "Oh, yeah, I'm not good enough," right? Or "I'm not this," or "I don't look that way," or "I'm not tall enough," whatever. So I've learned to just accept that, and it took me a long time. I mean, I'm gonna be 49 this year. So it took a long time of processing internally and trusting and letting go. I still get the butterflies every time I turn into the Lifetime parking lot. It's been It'll be 14 years in July.
Yeah,
And every single time I drive up there, I still get the butterflies. It's not about, "Oh, yeah, I'm concerned that people are not gonna come to my class," because the classes are packed. It's about me being there again and the excitement that I feel to be able to connect with them
yeah.
at
You
a deep
deliver
level.
you wanna deliver something good.
Yeah.
Care about what you're giving.
Yeah, heck yeah. It's to me, it's a privilege, it's an honor, and it's a blessing to be able to do that because there was a time when I would dread teaching when I was going through a crazy burnout and teaching so many classes, and that's why one of the reasons why I told you, just make sure that you are taking care of yourself and not overcommitting.
Think because of talking to you and reflecting on what I've experienced over the years being in the industry, I was like, wow, like I haven't been having days off. Experiencing the burnout and stuff is real. People
Yeah.
talk about it, but it's real. And I don't like being in that space because I don't feel that I'm been doing what I love to do with the love that I have for it and you're not getting all of me. I'm just showing up. I'm just kind of there on autopilot.
Yeah, and that's we don't want that. We wanna be present
And
fully.
and that can be felt, and that can be felt, and I've experienced
Mhm.
that, when I went off to do my own business. We can
Yeah.
That's a whole 'nother conversation, but,
Mhm, mhm.
that's what I got to, and it was just like, I got people giving feedback, I sit and had those confront conversations with my partner, and it's like, "Yeah, people don't feel like you're giving like, your affirmations and things are just like, you're not feeling it," and I'm like, because I was in a full-on depression and
Mhm, mhm,
burnout. And I couldn't
mhm.
stop, and I didn't feel like I could get off the wheel because it's like all this depends on me.
Yeah. Yes,
I have
yes.
to keep going if I'm tired, if I feel like I don't have nothing else to give,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
I just didn't have. when you do that, you get to that point, I realize that you don't have anything to give. You don't have it. You're not pouring into yourself,
Mhm.
and you just don't have any more fruit to give from your tree.
That's right. That's right. People talk about pouring out of an empty cup. You can't do that. There's nothing left. So
Nothing left.
that's why self-care and that's why self-care is so important.
It
You
is.
know, it's not selfish, it's selfless. And that's why I had to take a step back from all the things that I was doing because it's not a good feeling. You know that you love what you do so much, but what the thing you love is killing you also. And you have to recognize that and say it's not just killing you physically, mentally, it's also killing your relationships.
Yeah.
That the time that you should be spending with the family. And then we go back to that deep why, like, okay, why did I get into this in the first place? Was it for my ego or was it to leave a legacy for my family, to be of service to other people? And you can't serve if you're useless.
Absolutely. I
You
agree.
know?
100%.
So we are definitely not useless. We are wiser now, but we have to go through these things. Again, it goes back to that. Okay, we have to go through these things in order to learn and to do better. So I'm so happy and grateful and thank you, man. We've been almost 2 hours, and I'm gonna have to break up this podcast into two parts.
Yeah. Part one, part two.
Part one and part two. Keep them wanting more. Like what? Who's on Mary's podcast? Martise? Oh, they're gonna go crazy.
Uh,
I think I'll change my podcast cover from a picture of me to a picture of you shirtless in the yoga
oh
studio.
my goodness. Yeah. You guys, we try to make my head so big.
Oh, somebody has to, right?
I love
You're
you though.
Yeah, I love you too. You're like a younger brother to me, and that's why I see you and I'm like, "Did he eat today?" I'm like, should I bring him food again?" Because
Oh,
there's just so much that I see, so much beauty and so much potential, and I see the way that sometimes I just stand there in the yoga studio. You see me just standing, right?
mhm.
Sometimes I need a break, but other times it's more because 'cause I'm, like, admiring everything, and I take it all in, and I do the same thing in my classes. I'll just stand and I'll watch, and I have this, like,
Yeah.
feeling, in my heart that this is like, this is true, this is good, this is beautiful, and I see all of those people, and some of them are punching up, and some of them are punching the other way,
Mhm.
but they're there, and they're sweating profusely, and they're loving every freaking second, and that's you created that, so I'm like, I'm looking, and I'm like, "This is so awesome."
Yeah, it's beautiful. I see you, and I get that you get it.
Oh,
For
yeah.
doing that, like being in a class and you just see people moving,
Mhm.
like your cues and stuff. And I would say, like, man, if y'all can see what I can see when we're
Yeah.
just in yoga studio and not no mirrors in there and everybody's just moving. And I'm just like, man, it's amazing. You have those moments as
Mhm.
a coach, as an instructor, where you're just
Yeah.
there and you're present and you're like, wow, like all these people showed up
Yeah.
for
You see
what?
the gratification in your face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't even know what to say in those moments. There's been definitely times where I've held back tears. I'm emotional.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I've done it in my own classes, and you can't really see the tears 'cause I'm sweating profusely too when I'm teaching. I like, "Okay, let me get the towel. I'm sweating so
Right.
much." I'm sweating everywhere. I got stuff
Right.
coming out my nose,
Yeah.
but it's
Rip
it's
out it.
beautiful, and it comes from a higher place, and I'm so grateful for that, and so grateful for you. So, with that being said, thank you for being here on Get Intentional with Mary.
I'm grateful. Been intentional, yes, with your with everything that you
Yeah.
want in life. Being
Mhm.
intentional with your attention, your peace. Be intentional. I love that. I love the title of this, Mary, and it's amazing. And I'm looking forward to see what this is going to grow into, and it's already something beautiful.
Aw, thank you. I have no idea where it's going, but it's going somewhere, so I'm just here for the ride. Let the man upstairs, he's the one driving the car right now. So, sometimes the car goes really slow, and sometimes it goes really fast, and sometimes it stops. Sometimes it breaks down, but it's okay.
Yeah.
He's he's
I
he's
love
the
that.
driver.
Love it. I love it. I'm grateful to be a part of it. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I sure did. I had a lot of fun, not just having a conversation with Martise, but getting to know him a little bit more and sharing his light with all of you. Now, if you're still listening, I have a special invitation for you. Martise is my special guest in this year's Body and Soul experience. Our retreat is happening in September in Costa Rica, and registration is now open. just go to retreat.marymassey.com or check the show notes for the full link. I can't wait to see you there. Thank you so much for being here on Get Intentional with Mary.